name Strangford Lough comes from the Old Norse meaning strong fjord. It is a large, shallow sea loch situated on the east coast of County Down, Northern Ireland. The loch supports a vast and varied amount of wildlife, from the brent geese that migrate from the Arctic to the largest groups of seals found anywhere in Ireland, to a thriving fish and lobster population that has kept fishermen prosperous for countless generations. But perhaps the most interesting thing you'll find about the area is the local people and the characters you meet.
To me, Strangford Lough is one of the most amazing and beautiful places to live near or by. To wake up here in the morning on a boat just to watch the sunrise come up. Sometimes you'll hear the sails around the boat in the bay. The bays, the anchorages are just beautiful, quiet, peaceful. You couldn't ask for a nicer place.
I'm very interested in wildlife of Strangford Lough, and one of the things I think is most interesting to know about why the area is so rich in wildlife is to do with the tides. There's so much water coming in and out that the currents are extraordinarily fast. You can get currents of about 8 knots, that's 8 sea miles an hour, and the volume of water is absolutely incredible. It's 350 million cubic meters of seawater. That may not mean very much to you, but if you think that you've got to fill up the loch, which is the area all the way from Portaferry up to Newtonards, to that depth of maybe up to 3 meters, and the loch is 20 kilometers long and about 5 to 7 across, and just see that incredible tidal volume.
We're sitting right here in the tea rooms in the old post office at Lisbon, and we're sitting in what place was the car garage. This is where the Morsons garaged their car, and to the left of us there was the bathroom. It was a wooden structure for a bathroom, but it's a gem really in the crown of Lisbon. It was always before, when it was a shop. There was a great meeting place here on a Saturday midnight. All the locals met here on a Saturday night at 7:30 for the bus coming in with the Ireland Saturday Nights on it to get the results. There were a lot of people followed up motorbike racing around here, football, and then later the bowls. And it was always a meeting place. Everybody met. Now the shop opened at 6 o'clock in the morning, closed at 11:30 at night. And out in the yard there, they sold paint and creosote and paraffin oil. It was really a wonderful place, and it still is.
Well, I'm Tommy Hanna, and I've been living here all my life. I do a bit of fishing and one thing or another about the loch. Well, I had one interesting story. A man that lived down the road there, he retired in Canada and come over, and I got to be brave and great with him. And I had an old boat and she was leaking in one thing and another, so he bought a new boat. And he told me, I bought a boat, he says, and use away at her, take out to whoever you want to take out. So I thought this was great. So we're in the pub one night having a few drinks. I'm an old mate of mine. And the mate says, I want to go out fishing with you some night. I says, fair enough, no problem. I think it was St. Patrick's night, because we had shamrock on, and the man that bought the boat had no shamrock, and I was slagging him about it. Oh, he says, I'll get a shamrock, don't worry. So I saw him on Josie and myself come down to Eddie's. Eddie was the man who owned the boat. We come down to Eddie's, and it started to rain. So Eddie says, I'll not bother going out tonight, go use ahead. Josie says, no, I'll lend you my oil rig. And he says, no, plenty of our nights, go and use ahead. So Jussie and I headed off, and we went away out to St Patrick's Rock with a big pole on it. There's a big pole there with 4 shamrocks on it at the end of the bar. So I said to Jussie, I've 3 or 4 lobster pots to lift. I says, I'll lift them first and then we'll do a wee bit of fishing. While we were lifting the lobster pots, I heard this merciful bang. Jussie said, what was that? I looked all round. I said, it was one of them shamrocks fell off the pole. I says, I've never seen that happening before. So we went on and lifted the creels, and then we done a wee bit of fishing, but it started to rain again. So I said to Jussie, we'll head home because it's a bad out leaving it. So we headed down the loch again, and we tied the boat up, and we rowed the wee boat in, and these 3 boys come walking down the beach, and they told us Eddie had left us and walked up to the house and died. So I had it worked out that when he left us and walked, by the time he walked up, we would have been at this rock, St Patrick's Rock, the same time the shamrock fell. So when you think of him not having the shamrock on the evening we were in the pub, and the shamrock falling, and him dying, it sounds like a myth, but it's the truth.
I've heard of a story, well, it's more of a myth about a woman called Rosie O'Shea. I've written it down here because it's quite long. Rosie O'Shea was a simple woman, so she was. She lived in Portaferry. She lived in a small cottage with the beautiful views of Strangford Lough, and she loved the wildlife. She loved the swans and the seals and the birds. She loved just the whole piece of the loch and the way it felt. Rosie, as the town folk knew, was a palm reader. She would go to the taverns at the weekend and read people's palms. Rosie was a friendly soul and accepted by the town folk of Strangford. As time went by, an old English lord called Caldwell moved into Strangford upon seeing its beauty. Caldwell was held in high esteem because of his wealth. One night, when Rosie was in the tavern, Caldwell and his friends called in for drinks. On seeing Rosie reading her palms, Caldwell asked the barman what she was doing. She's reading people's palms and telling them their future. She's what? She's reading people's palms and telling their future. People can't do that, screamed Caldwell. She's a witch. Rosie feared for her life and ran for the ferry, but the ferry was called off. A thick mist had covered Strangford Lough. Rosie was afraid. Seeking refuge, she saw a small rowing boat and decided to brave the cold, murky waters of Strangford Lough. Rosie was never seen again. Being of strong soul and spirit, Rosie lived on, and in realising her immortality, she sought revenge. Caldwell in later years was found in a local asylum, supposedly have gone mad from a haunting spirit. Strangford's people have experienced ghostly presence in the taverns, and when there's a thick mist and people cannot cross on the ferry, people have heard of whispers of Rosie O'Shea, the Strangford myth.
Well, I think one of my favourite stories, and strange, very interesting story, is about the Portaferry ghost ship, which is something I hadn't heard about at all until I was working with a student very late one night and having trouble with the electricity system in Portaferry, and we found out that the only safe time to work to make sure our results were consistent was after about 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, when people started going to bed, and I suppose all the television sets went off. And so we'd gone down to have a drink before we went to work for the night. We came out of the slip-in, and as we came out, we saw what looked like a small coastal steamer coming in up the Strangford Lough Narrows. And she had her bridge lights on, about 5 or 6 windows across, and she had her masthead lights on, port and starboard. And she came up just behind Bankmore Hill, which is near where the whirlpool is, the so-called root and wheel. And she suddenly turned in towards the hard side of the Narrows, and disappeared behind the hill. Well, that's an incredibly dangerous bit of water in there, and we really wondered if whoever it was in charge of the boat knew what they were doing. So David, the student, and myself got in our car and went down the Narrows, and no sign of a boat could we see whatsoever. After having heard this from John McKeating, that this was the Portaferry ghost ship, and it was supposed to appear whenever any one of the sort of member of one of the so-called traditional families who live along the seashore, locally referred to as the Gilpins, died, that this boat was seen by members of the families. And the extraordinary thing was, I'd more or less forgotten about this until about 1990, so it was some 34, 35 years later. I was working quite late one night in my office in Queen's University Marine Station, which overlooks the Narrows, when I saw a boat coming towards me, towards Portaferry, out of Castleward Bay. So I saw her coming towards me, and she got about halfway across the Narrows. She just went out like somebody switching off a light. I was very shaken. I went home. Wife said I looked as white as a sheet. And the extraordinary thing is, the next day, a guy who lived next door but one to me, Nicky Curran, died.
The old fellow lived up at the top of the hill there. The son, they kept pigs, so they did. And the old Billy, he had and around here in those days, they wore a bag apron, you called it. It was a meal bag with a bit of cord round it. You put in front of yourself when you were feeding pigs in order to keep you clean. But Billy had worn this bag out, and there was a hole in it. And he went to feed the pigs in the shed, and the pigs all ran to get the meal at the door, and the pig put its head through Billy's bag rubber, and he fell onto his back, and the pig took off down the lane, and the third town down the lane, he rolled over and off the pig and into the field. The other one was in Cumber School, and it was national school in those days, you see. Each church had a school. Each church in Cumber had a school connected to it. And this was the Smith Memorial School in Cumber, and there was a big hall there, and the girls had to go there to practice baking there. They went there, and then they come back at lunchtime. But Mr. Haddon was the name of the headmaster in those days in Cumber, and he had a bit of a tiff with them all on the Friday morning. So they went all out to get their lunch, and the girls come back and the boys come back, and they'd left the school open in the blackboard, and some of the young ones had went up to the blackboard and put on it, in Clinchy Street there is a school, and in that school there is a stool, and on that stool there sits a fool, and his name is Baldy Haddon, and that was the headmaster.
I've been working in Portaferry for Queen's University on and off since 1961, though I'm retired now. I've grown to absolutely love this part of the world. I was actually born in Hampshire, south of England. As I said, came here just over 40 years ago now. Apart from the animals and plants, it's really, I think, what makes the loch for so many people are the people who live here. And I've met a lot of great characters over my time.
Well, I enjoy living about here, for you can go out in the boat, you can go out fishing, you can go out gathering winkles. Then in the summertime you've all the visitors coming down to the shore, and it's interesting. It's a nice spot in the summertime, not so pleasant in the winter time. But I enjoy living about here.
It's lovely, so it is. There's nice bars, there's nice restaurants. You can get the ferry from Strangford across to Portaferry, and you can travel the whole way up and down the coast to Portaferry, and there's beautiful beaches all around it, you know. Yeah, it's lovely, lovely.
My name is Stephen Bradshaw, and I've been living on the shores of Strangford Lough now for the last 30 years. Moved down from Belfast and would never dream of leaving the area again. It's somewhere that I've had great fun, great pleasure, great enjoyment out of it. It's an absolutely magical place to be. To wake up here in the morning on a boat in one of the bays, secluded bays, is absolutely beautiful. The sun rising over the shore.
I'm Norman McCaig. I live in Lisbarnet Villas, very close to Lisbon. In fact, I'm so close to Lisbon, I can stand with one foot in Lisbarnet and the other foot in Lisbon. I've lived here all my life, and it's a terrific place to be, and hope to be spared to be here a lot of number of years.